There are reports that North Korea's leader Kim Jong Un is dead and his sister is taking over as dictator of the communist regime. Joining me now to put any of the rumors to bed is our foreign affairs expert, Lisa Daftari. Lisa, a few media outlets say he died during a botched heart operation, but South Korea says, he's alive and well. What do you say?
Well, rumors have been flying for a very long time with regards to where is Kim Jong Un. He was missing from a few state-level events where he normally would make an appearance, make a photo op, and we know that he loves to do that. And he's been missing, and the rumors have been circulating, and he has not come out to dispel those rumors. So two media outlets, the New York Post and TMZ, who aren't usually the ones to, they're reputable media outlets, but they're not usually ones to break news, especially foreign affairs, came out and said that a Hong Kong news outlet has a source close to the situation and says that he in fact died from complications from a botched heart operation that occurred a few weeks ago. So, what are we to believe? Now, South Korea says, no, we have sources inside that tell us he's just fine. And on the other hand, no one has come out to say, well, here he is. He's fine. So the rumors still continue to circulate. I mean, many will say there has to be something wrong with him, and that's why he's not coming on camera. That's why we don't hear anything from the regime. Look, this regime is all about the propaganda, and they want to appear to be extremely strong, extremely put together. So if he did in fact die, they will want some time to put themselves together, whether his sister's going to take over, who's going to take over, how is it going to be. They want it to be seamless. At the same time, would they want to leave the world in the sense of the mystery to continue? Absolutely, they would. So we'll have to wait to hear more on or more evidence. Is he alive or is he not?
So what do we really know about his sister?
Right. So rumors, again, because people who actually are close to her, but rumors say that it would be his sister who would take over. But those who do know her say that she is more feared and more brutal than her brother, which seems, absolutely impossible. But it'll be interesting to see a female running the same kind of regime that Kim Jong Un currently has been running.
Yeah, she and Donald Trump together, that'll be interesting, talking about denuclearization. Lisa, something new and innovative is being tried in the battle against the coronavirus, and that's using a UV light solution to sterilize passenger aircraft. It's coming from Israel, and if this takes off, pun intended, it could boost airlines' efforts around the world to restart operations in a safe and clean manner.
Yeah, leave it to the Israelis to find technology that's consequential to the matter at hand. In this case, finding ways to pick right up after the coronavirus quarantine time is over, when people and businesses try to get back on their feet, and airlines being one of the most hard-hit industries in all of this. The Israelis have come up with electromagnetic UV rays that can actually sterilize an airplane in a faster amount of time than any of the chemicals can. And remember, when crews come in to clean an airplane after a flight, these are chemicals, they're wet, they have to dry, you have to allow the airplane to air out. This method will do away with all of that. It's going to quicken the turnaround time. And if you look at certain very successful airlines, like JetBlue, for example, was one of the first to really speed up the cleanup efforts so that they can get their airplanes right back around and fly them back out again. And if you notice, if you've ever flown JetBlue, I used to fly them all the time before all of this, they go around with garbage pails the entire flight so that they kind of minimize their cleanup time. So you can understand that sterilizing the plane not only will become much more necessary after COVID-19 quarantine time, but the fact that we can cut down the time and cut down the chemicals will be a real game changer in the aviation field.
There's some good news coming out of Europe in that Italy has reported its lowest single-day coronavirus death toll since March 12th.
Yes, this is absolutely great news. As you know, the whole world is looking to Italy as the place that was probably most hard hit. New York being neck and neck with Italy, and really because Italy is ahead, meaning it's affected them sooner than it hit the United States. We look to see how Italy is handling all of this, and for them to have to be on the other side of the curve, to be on their deceleration is wonderful, wonderful news. And we hope to continue on this. We've heard from Dr. Fauci a while back that the deceleration would be much slower than the acceleration. So the time that it took to get up to the climax was much faster, and the time to come down is going to be much slower. Even if that's the case, the fact that the numbers are coming down is going to be a very positive thing to look at, and hopefully we'll see that all around the world.
So happy to hear from my friends that have a family in Italy, because the country is currently reporting over 197,000 COVID-19 cases and more than 26,000 deaths. Lisa, Spain has also recently recorded its lowest daily death toll as the lockdown is starting to ease somewhat.
Right. If you remember, Spain was very interesting because they were concerned about both the fact that people were dying from COVID-19, that their hospitals could not handle it, that they did not have enough staff and ventilators to handle the surge. But at the same time, they were quite concerned about the society, about the economy, about the consequences of closing and shutting down the way that most countries have done around the globe. But Spain decided to open up while the surge was still surging, and had to kind of pull back a bit and say, you know what, we need to shut down again. This is not working for us. So now to see that they are finally seeing, a flattening of their curve, that's also very, very promising. We hope to really rid the globe of this, and particularly Europe, who has suffered so greatly. Those two countries, Italy and Spain, really, really hit hard. And, our thoughts and prayers are with all the families that were affected in all of this.
The United Kingdom is also seeing a downward trend when it comes to the virus, with less and less people in hospital.
Yes, it's wonderful to hear that people are going to the hospital less. It's interesting when we talk about who's going to the hospital and who's not, and whether or not the statistics of people who are actually affected by COVID-19 are accurate. How about the people who did not go into the hospital? How about the people who went into the hospital with something else and either caught COVID or perhaps died of something else and were bunched in together with the people who had COVID, or the opposite? So our statistics are off. But in the case of the UK, you have fewer people in the hospital, you have fewer people dying, you have fewer cases that are being diagnosed. So all around, the curve is definitely being flattened in the UK, and again, good news all around.
Lisa, meanwhile, in South America, Argentina is extending its COVID-19 lockdown to May the 10th, excluding towns or cities of under 500,000, where the question is up to provincial authorities.
Right. Argentina is an interesting case because they haven't had all that many deaths, and the ratio of cases to number of deaths is extremely, extremely low, which is wonderful. But at the same time, they want to be extra cautious. They have extended until May 10th, which is not a very, very long period of time, but at the same time, it will allow this to pass. And what they're worried about is that this will surge just like it did in many other countries. They probably, understand that they have a lot of people coming in from Europe, from other places in the world. And again, they've extended till May 10th. Schools are closed, workplaces are closed. They're really trying to keep people at home as much as they can.
Meanwhile, in the United States, where you're located, governors have begun to ease lockdown as the death toll in the United States approaches the number lost in the Vietnam War.
Isn't that crazy? It absolutely is crazy. Look, a lot of people started to protest and complain, and conspiracy theories are flying. It's a very tough conversation to have, because I think everybody wants fewer, fatalities. People don't want people to die from COVID-19. If you live in one of the major cities, you almost definitely know someone who was affected by the disease. But at the same time, there are other consequences. There are businesses that are failing. There are businesses that have said they're not going to reopen. They're going out of business. Mom and pop shops, people who can't make a living, people who are service oriented, people who know that they cannot go back to business as usual, even when the country reopens. So because of this, I think governors are in a very, very difficult position to handle both crises at the same time, the COVID-19 crisis and the economic fallout of all of this. So I think places are, different states are looking at their numbers. They're looking at how dire the situation is, whether they can open safely, whether they can control the masses. Look, it's very difficult to quarantine people, have them stay at home, and then open the economy, not expecting everyone to just run out.
Lisa, I was talking to a friend of mine in Toronto, and she said she walked by a hair salon that was boarded up, but she peeked in between and she could see inside that the hairstylists were actually cutting people's hair. It's almost like they were doing it in hiding during the coronavirus pandemic and the medical shutdown. Now, German authorities are running sting operations there where they're shutting down underground hair salons that are operating during the pandemic. What's going on with our world here?
In all honesty, I think people need their services and they are tired of the shutdown, and they will go, whether you're a hairstylist and you're looking for the business, or whether you're a patron and looking for the service, this is how people are going about it. And I'm sure many of these people are doing house calls, and people are going to break the boundaries and they're going to break the quarantine. It's unfortunate because, again, I think once the country reopens here in the United States, for you guys in Canada, all over Europe, there will be a surge. And because of that, if we let our guards down, we may see, a revisit of this virus before we would like to see it. And for that reason, I think people have to really just bite the bullet and wait a bit longer before you get your hair done, before you get your nails done, before you have visits with friends and parties and so on. I think that, it's going to take some restraint, but it's necessary.
My wife reminds me all the time that it's very hard to find a good hairstylist, so people don't want to lose them. Hong Kong held its first major protest in over a month, Lisa. Hong Kong police broke up the first large pro-democracy protest since March.
Yes. This is an interesting story because with this virus on the map, we thought we did away, or China thought they did away with the Hong Kong protesters. That was the Achilles heel of the Chinese government, to deal with these protesters on a daily basis, and they were relentless. They were not going back home. And if you remember how you and I would speak about this on a weekly basis, about them getting into the universities, getting into the malls, getting into the airports, getting into key infrastructures, and really showing the Chinese government and showing the world, frankly, that they've had enough and they were not going to tolerate this anymore. And they are back. As soon as they realized that they could contain the virus, that they didn't have as many, that their numbers were looking good, they didn't have as many fatalities, they are back on the streets. And I think that China is going to have to deal with the fact that we're going to be back to reality very soon.
A story from The Guardian says Saudi Arabia is ending the death penalty for minors. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, this is a very, very, very sad reality. Saudi Arabia has been called out for its human rights records across the board, against women, against children, against minors, against minority groups. And for what reason? It's because they want to stay in power. They want to be the infallible government. They want to be the only game in town. And as soon as they realize that someone or a group or an individual is going to threaten the reign of the royal family, they will do away with them. I've done many stories on individuals who just posted on their Facebook page. Raif Badawi is a case that I follow. His wife now lives in Canada, as a matter of fact, in Ensaf, and she is extremely vocal about her husband's case. He's been in prison for about 10 years now, with lashes, very frequently being beaten. He was sick. He didn't get the proper treatment. And for what? Because he had posts on his Facebook page. And now they're doing away with the execution of minorities. And for what reasons? Because they've been brought under the microscope so many times with the human rights groups and the UN, etc. And these are the young people are the ones who are protesting. They're the ones who are posting things on their Facebook page, and they know that that's where revolutions begin. That's where these ideas begin.
Here's an interesting story. A couple of New Yorkers is suing the Chinese government over the coronavirus. Hey, good luck with that. All the power to you.
Right. It's the individuals from New York and 2 states that have gone after the Chinese government because of coronavirus. And exactly right. Good luck to you. We don't even know where this came from. Yeah, right. And we don't know how it spread. So, where are the answers? At least these cases, perhaps, because how are we going to hold them to it? But perhaps we can get some answers from the Chinese government as to where it came from. If it wasn't you, then who was it? How did it spread? If it wasn't man-made, where did it come from? How did we get here? And I think that the whole world has every right. Australia is also pushing the Chinese government for answers. And I think the more that we see this, universal push to get answers from the Chinese government, the closer we'll be, hopefully, to getting some answers.
Yeah, we do need some answers, absolutely. Our foreign affairs expert, Lisa Daftari, joining me once again from Los Angeles. Thank you, Lisa.
My pleasure.
On behalf of all of us here at BCN, I'm Hal Roberts. God bless, and thanks so much for watching.